Well, good morning. Wow, we got some people on already. So good morning, Jenny and Kim and Jim. I was
Good morning.
trying to think of a name that rhymes with Kim and Jim, but that kind of ran out. Good to have you guys on this Friday. Good morning, Bethany. So, did it rain yesterday? I don't think it rained yesterday.
It spit just a little bit.
Okay. We skipped a day of rain. Good morning, Colleen.
Colleen.
It's supposed to rain today, later, and then all day tomorrow, I think. So
I haven't looked at tomorrow, but I saw that today. That's what they're calling
so
for.
I gotta get busy and get out and do my stuff. Diesel has been so expensive that I haven't even started my truck in a long time, and I need to get wood. And so yesterday was trying to get my truck so I could get wood.
Did it start?
I had to jump the battery off. I'll see this morning if it starts again or if I need new batteries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Out with diesel, you have two batteries. Did you know
that? I do now.
Because the compression in the diesel engine is so much that it takes two batteries to turn it over. It takes a hardier starter, a heavy-duty starter, and a heavy-duty alternator.
Very good.
Which means not only is diesel fuel expensive, but the other things associated are too. So anyway, I'm gonna have to get out and get as much done of that as I can.
Good morning, Colleen.
Get much of that done as I can. And I don't know if you noticed, but it's starting to cool off a little. Last night was chilly.
Yep, and it's going to be cooler today than it was yesterday.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, see, that's a good thing about waiting till you get your wood. You actually get to stay warm while you're getting it.
There you go.
You stay warm while you're splitting it, while you're stacking it, and then you bring it in and get warm. You get warm like 5 times.
That's right.
And I hear sirens. I hope it's.
Yeah. Hope everybody's okay.
Yeah. The forest is quite wet, so that's nice. Yeah. I mean, it ought to be. This has been a pretty heavy rain year. That's been nice.
Yep.
I'll take it. Nice and green.
We're already caught up for August.
Are we?
Yep. That was the official word.
Oh, so if we didn't get any more rain, we already got everything we need for August?
That's right.
Wow. They could be coming to get me, but I'm safe. Paul's here.
They'll never think of looking for you here.
Well, must not, because it sounded like they went down the other highway. So, wow. ABCs of FBC Cloudcroft. It's a fun series. Got a couple more left in this one.
All right.
3 more, actually. The C is 2 parts. Sorry, just couldn't.
I hope Luke's doing okay.
He's doing all right. He needed a vacation. He's been working pretty hard. We'll get back to Luke.
I hope he feels comfortable coming back.
He does, because you know what happens sometimes is if you're not here for a little while, especially in these days and age, things change, and then you kind of feel out of place when you come back.
Well, you know what? Believers who don't get together aren't together.
No. Well, maybe they should attend. We actually didn't script this out, but it works well.
Yeah, that's right. How about that?
Hey, Corwin. And so the ABCs,
How's that for a lead-in?
I know. That's a good segue. By the way, you know what is a segue? No. Dang, I said it wrong. What's a segue? About 10 pounds.
I was going to say, what's a seg?
It's pretty close to a henway. Depending on how much you feed the hen.
Right. Very good.
Anyways, so the ABCs of FBC Cloudcroft, the A is attend.
Yes.
Believers who don't get together aren't together.
Yes.
I like doing stuff like that so we can remember, but then you have to spend quite a bit of time explaining it. So
what do you mean by that?
Well, mainly what I mean is the unity. Believers, when we look in Acts chapter 2, and that's not like, the hard fast model for the church. That's just kind of how the church started. But it's a good picture of what I think church ought to be. In Acts chapter 2, they were together regularly. They fellowshiped in one another's homes. They gathered together as a church, listened to the apostles' teaching. It says devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowships. That means the group of believers that we call the church. They breaking of bread, which is things that we do as a church, communion, and of course we know baptism. One of the results of them being together so much is that they were unified. They were of one heart and one mind, and we see that at the very end. When we get to the end of the series, we'll see. But one of the results of that is and praising God and having favor with all the people, that believers were added to their number daily. So believers who don't get together aren't together. They're not unified, and we see that happening. And man, I tell you, especially COVID changed so many things, but especially that year of COVID. So from March 2020 to March 2021, unfortunately, it's happened to some people that they weren't here, and that's okay. But when they came back, that year was like 10 years in changes. And things are continuing to change.
A lot of things changed in that year.
Yeah. Hope. I said this with Jim on Wednesday, but when Hope comes back, for like Christmas break and during the summer, it takes her a while to kind of readjust. And she's like, Dad, I don't know these people because we're always getting new people, which is great. So I want to dive into, Jim and I talked about it a little bit, but dive into the kind of the negative effect of when we don't get together. So when believers don't get together, they're not together, right?
So what happens?
Well, a lot of times it's division, and even that doesn't mean that it has to be fighting, but that can happen too. You feel out of place, you feel out of sorts. I know. I mean, I took vacation at the end of July, and I still don't feel like I've gotten back in a groove just yet. You know what I mean? Just gone for 1 week, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you were like this in college, but in college, did you ever miss a class in college? Did you ever skip a class? Yeah, I might have. But if you skip a class, then it's hard to go back because you don't know what's going on.
I often didn't go back.
And if you miss 2 classes, if it's a Tuesday or Thursday class, that's a week's worth.
Yeah. Then
it's even harder now. I really don't know what's going on. And when you and I were in school, there was no blackboard. The blackboard was the thing on the wall that you wrote on. It wasn't a computer device.
Right.
So you either had to have a friend that you had to get notes from, or you just came back behind.
One of my instructors on the first day of class, he was actually a TA, he said, it's in the book. I will not be assigning homework. There will be no quizzes. There will be a final because I have to grade you on something. But I'm like, why do I need to be here? So I didn't show up.
Oh, wow.
I had the book. So I read the book, went in on the last day, and took the final.
Mm-hmm.
And I aced it.
Mm-hmm.
Then he accused me of cheating. I got called into the dean's office. This is a true story. He got called into the dean's office. And the dean said, hey, your instructor says he saw you on the first day, didn't see you till the final, and you got a 95. Explain that. I said, well, I think it was that first day that messed me up a little bit.
I studied the book.
Yeah. So anyway, now I got it off, but yeah, I missed that class.
But you probably didn't have a camaraderie with the class. You didn't, unless you got somewhere else. You sure didn't get it from the class.
Not
you
from
didn't
the
get
class.
to know the people.
Not from the class. Yeah, we had a fairly small class, so these guys were in all of my other classes too.
So I'm guessing you probably didn't have a great relationship with the teacher.
No, that's why he called me into the dean's office.
So that's one of the things that can happen.
Yep.
Is and I don't know if Dennis is on. Hey, Dennis, Good to see you. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this, but among friends, even so, you're apart, you don't see each other, and maybe it's something that someone else says. They just kind of plant the seed of doubt. Man, is Paul mad at you? Well, no, not that I know of. Why? Oh, well, probably no big deal. Just something he said, and that kind of. Oh, well, maybe he is. Maybe that's why he hadn't come around. Maybe that's why I haven't
Well,
seen
the
him.
thing is, if you don't see anybody for a long time, you have a tendency to grow apart.
Mhm.
If you don't have, if you're not doing things together, then you're doing things apart.
Mm-hmm.
Your interests kind of diverge.
Mm-hmm. And it you can't build that kind of relationship
Right.
if you're not together. Now I know the main part of this is that we're talking about in attend is the Sunday morning, right? And you're limited on how much you can build relationship on Sunday morning.
Right. You're only there for an hour or so.
Yeah. There are times that I don't even get to say hi to some people because we've got like 3,000. We don't. But there are some times that I don't even get around to everyone to say hello. They might come in, right before service starts, or whatever reason. I just don't get over to that part of the sanctuary. But if we don't gather together around a common purpose, corporate worship is amazing. Jim and I were talking about that on Wednesday, that we worship together, that we hear the same teaching, that we celebrate when people come to faith in Christ, that we show our unity when we do the Lord's Supper. You tend to grow apart. There are some friends you may have. I just reminded of this. Kind of catching up with an old friend. He's younger than I, but Manuel. Some friendships you can just pick right up where you left off.
That's right.
Now you got a lot of catching up to do. It's 12 years worth of living you gotta catch up with, but usually those are pretty rare. Normally you can't really have a relationship or friendship if you don't spend time together. So,
but even those who you don't spend a lot of time with, maybe they live far away, it's nice to go visit them, and you do the catch up. But what would happen if you had an opportunity to catch up with that friend and you decided not to?
Yeah.
Is that building your relationship? Are you growing closer together, or
It's not, and we all know this in relationships. The more time we spend together,
right,
then the closer the relationship.
Yeah.
There are times that you and I sit down and we're like, good grief, we see each other like 4 times a week. Cut it out. No, I'm kidding. Because we're friends, and we have a friendship because of that. Or maybe that adds to the friendship. Here's what happens a lot of times in church. And you guys have probably seen it. You may have felt it before. All right. So don't go to church for whatever reasons. COVID provided a lot of reasons. Some of them really good. We didn't know it was going to be in the beginning. Some people have some big health issues. Nobody wants to be sick. You know what I mean? If it's a particularly bad flu season, we kind of wave. If somebody's choking and coughing and has a runny nose, I'm going to be less likely to give them a hug. But there were some good reasons during COVID. But COVID provided a lot of good reasons. But here's what tends to happen, and this happens for a lot of different reasons, not just COVID. That someone misses a Sunday or 2 or 3, or during COVID, it was, hey, until things kind of settle down a little bit, I think I'm going to, join in from home and not engage, but just watch. I mean, if you're like you guys are on all the time, so you're engaging some, and I need to remember to start with a good question to make sure that you guys are actually paying attention. Sometimes I feel a little bit like some of the teachers who were doing the Zoom things. I would not allow this as a teacher. During the online only school stuff, students would come in, come on to Zoom, and then they would mute their audio and video. And so who knows? I mean, are they still there or not? Um, they're logged on. Like I can look and see how many people are on right now
Right.
with Facebook Live, but I don't know. Some of you may be in the kitchen getting coffee right now, and I can't blame you for that. I mean,
That's what I would be doing.
Paul brings two,
Yeah.
and then he drains this before he leaves.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. So
I know what you mean.
so you're gone, and this has happened. This has happened with us even here, um, and when you're gone, you get disconnected. I felt that way just being gone a week. Hope has to reconnect every time she comes back from school. You feel disconnected while you're gone, and then it happens on both sides. And Satan loves he loves to separate believers. I mean, it's like the wolf. They don't attack the whole. Is it a herd of sheep? Flock. It's a flock. Shepherd the flock of God among you is what. All right. So the flock. It's Friday. I haven't. This is only my. I've only had 1.5 cups of coffee so far this morning. So the flock. He doesn't attack the whole flock. He tries to get one alone, and then they attack that one. And that's predatory animals. I mean, even lions kind of do the same thing. They'll chase a herd of whatever it is they're going after, and the ones who fall behind or straggle off, that's the ones they go after. They don't try to go after them all. They go after the single. So Satan does this all the time. So somebody, and maybe for good reasons, they aren't here for a little bit, and they start feeling kind of left out and out of place. But then the people in the church, so they might be feeling like, oh, nobody cares about me, right? Nobody's called me, nobody's contacted me. Mm-hmm. But then the people in the church say, well, I guess they don't care about us because they're not here. And even for perfectly legitimate reasons, that can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that can happen. There actually could be some, you might have gotten hurt by somebody either way. And Satan, when we're apart, Satan does a number on stuff. I've seen this happen with too many relationships. They're amicable partings. Hey, let's stay in touch. And then after the separation, then Satan gets in and does a number, and all of a sudden that person is mad. You know what I mean? Wait, what happened? We said everything was okay when,
Well, I think what happens also is if you're not with somebody frequently, you become less comfortable with them.
Mm-hmm.
And even less comfortable when you are occasionally around them because you don't have that bond anymore. And if you're not comfortable with someone, I mean, if you find yourself in a time of need, who are you going to call? Somebody you're not comfortable with? I mean, that can happen.
No, I've got a few of you right at the top of my list. 2 a.m. I call this. These are my 2 a.m. friends. Who, if you're getting a pickle at 2 a.m., who do you call? And because you're not going to call someone at 2 a.m. that never answers or never returns your call or is iffy.
Or even if you're not sure how they'd respond,
Yeah.
And you won't know if you don't spend time with them.
I've never called you at 2 a.m. Do you like, are you like, you wake up and you can go at it, or?
I wouldn't answer the phone.
Here's what you need to know about me. Now, Warren knows this, and this wasn't 2 a.m. I go to bed at 8:30 or 9 sometimes these days. Do you remember what the big power outage? 2010.
Yeah.
Like we were out for a few days here, but
I was out for more than a week.
That's because I live right close to the co-op, so they get us back on first. Anyways, so my cell phone beside my bed, no fan, which is hard, anyways, I was asleep. I was out. And I don't know if you guys have ever done a ski. You're kind of between awake and sleep, but you're dreaming. Did that ever happen?
Oh, yeah.
So you're kind of awake dreaming, and
I do that for most of the day, actually.
Let's drink coffee for the important stuff. And I was just awake. Then I'm laying in bed, and I woke up, after this weird little dream. And I didn't even remember the dream. I just kind of, how you had a dream. And Cynthia said, "Who was that?" And I said, "Who was what?" She goes, "You were talking to somebody on the phone." I said, "I was?" She goes, yeah. I said, who was it? She goes, I don't know, but you went into the dining room. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I get my flashlight, get my phone. I go in the dining room, and there's a piece of paper with notes. And the notes are Warren Turner is in this hotel. This is the phone number. This is his room number. And give this to Denise. And what had happened, I thought it was a dream. I got up. I guess I got my flashlight because I don't know. Went in with my phone and apparently a flashlight and took notes coherently when I gave it to. Because when I went to Denise, I said, I wasn't really awake when I took this, but I think Warren wants you to call him because he can't get in touch with you because everybody's power is out and they don't have cell service there. And I'm amazed. I got the right number. I got the right hotel room. I mean, she got through to him. So apparently, you can call me at 2:30. Another thing happened. Hillary broke down when she was in school at NMSU. This is 11 some. I was at Bailey Canyon Curve before I really kind of woke up, and I thought, wait, what am I going to do when I get there? I don't, so I had to go back and get Cynthia and say, hey, we need to take a car to let her use.
Right.
So anyhow, but you don't build those kind of relationships if you're not together.
Right.
And Satan kind of does a number, I think, on relationships. He gets us alone. I know that depression is really hard like this because when you're depressed, you want to be alone. But then when you're alone, you get more depressed, right? If there are times I don't want to be around people, and that's usually when I need to be around people, right? And so that's why we say if we don't attend, if we're not together, then we're really going to be divided. I mean, that tends to happen. So let me ask you guys. We got a few minutes because y'all have just been listening. I want to hear from you. What are some ways that we can keep this from happening? What are some ways that we can keep that from happening? So what do you do? Because I haven't said this enough. Maybe I need to say it more in church and stuff. But in 2024, I'm going to take a 3-month sabbatical. Right? So what do we do? And that's going to be a big adjustment for me.
Yeah, you're going to come back and say, man, I don't know anybody here.
Yeah, I am. And I haven't quite figured all this out. I've got to ask a bunch of people exactly how do you do that. I don't want to cut ties with everybody, but I can't be involved in the day-to-day stuff of the church where it's not a sabbatical. But how do we? What do we do? How do we keep that from happening? That we get disconnected that way in attending. So you guys give me some ideas. Sometimes I know my questions are really vague. I can make it more vague if I need to.
So I mean, I was just thinking, some people travel for a living, and it's really hard for them to even come home. I know a guy who's in the Merchant Marines. He'd be gone for a couple of months at a time and come home. He came home once, and he didn't live there anymore. His wife had actually bought a new house. I mean, he was welcome to join her, but he got back home and he didn't live there.
It's funny you say that. When Cynthia and I met in college, and while we were in college, there's one time that her family moved. Of course, now, mind you, this is 86 to 89, somewhere in there. And no cell phones. I mean, you had to get that calling card to call long distance. Right. You remember those MCI cards?
Yep.
To do that kind of thing. Her parents moved, and so there was like a week or two that she didn't have their new phone number or their address or anything. I mean, just took a little bit. Maybe it wasn't 2 weeks, but a week or so, where I don't know where my parents are. And that was a day we didn't call a lot. I mean, my parents were already gone, but you didn't call home a lot. Maybe once or twice a semester, maybe. You
Right.
know, I don't know how it worked with you, but that's the way.
Yeah, I'd call like right before Thanksgiving vacation, say, "Hey, I'm gonna come home in a couple of days."
I was so bad. So because my parents were already gone, it was my aunt and uncle, and my grandmother lived with them. And I remember one of my favorite stories about my grandmother. It was Thanksgiving or Christmas break. I forget. I would never call them to tell them I was coming. They knew I was. They just never knew when. So I show up there and it was dark for some reason. I guess it was Christmas break. It's dark, and I'm got my luggage, and knock on the door. I didn't have a key. I don't know. They lived out in the woods. Anyways, my grandmother opens the door, and there I am. She goes, "Larry, when are you going home?" And my aunt was behind her. She said, "Mother," she goes, "No, I mean, how long are you gonna stay?" So, but
That's fun.
but yeah, you get kind of disconnected
Yeah.
that way. I mean, so what are some things we can do to?
Well, we're not getting a whole lot of ideas. I think they all went off to get coffee.
One did. I know we lost one
Yeah.
because we're pushing 30 minutes. But so
Well,
what's an idea you have?
well, I think you made a case for why you should try to stay connected,
Mm-hmm.
and that bad things can happen when you don't stay connected. So let me just ask you a question. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think it's easier to stay connected or harder?
I think it takes more effort to stay connected.
Absolutely.
You have
So
to
it
be
has
intentional.
to be. It have to be intentional. So it has to be a priority. So I say the
Mhm.
first thing to do is make it a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Make it a priority to stay connected, to stay together
Mhm.
with other believers, with your friends and family. Or it's not going to happen by accident.
We have this amazing thing now,
What?
in that we can connect. We didn't do this. Oh wow, look at that! I'm the one making the face on that one. Let me fix that just for our benefit. So we didn't have this really. I mean, we did it with our state convention. We were using Zoom a couple of years before COVID, um, but we have amazing ways now to stay connected, even if you aren't here physically. Because that's what you need. You want the, and you guys may be tired of hearing me say this, but man, our men's Bible study, it's a small group. And it's a connected small group. Now we do get together. Some of us are in person, some are online.
We have a fellowship.
We have a fellowship. We have one in a couple of weeks. That we get together and do some stuff. And that's not the only time we see each other either. We connect in other circles. Some, not all of them. Some of them only connect for the men's Bible study. But that's amazing. I mean, we can connect, and you guys heard me say this on Wednesday, and this year we're going to flesh that out better on how to. But that's one way is you can if you can't be here physically, don't just watch. We're going to figure that out better for our Sunday morning services, but make sure that you're still connecting with people in the church. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So what's an idea you have?
Well,
to keep it from make it a priority.
You got to make it a priority, and you're absolutely right. The tools are there, so you can call, you can text, you can video telecon, you can do all sorts of stuff.
So Kim says it takes an effort on both sides. That's something couples have heard me say this for a long time. Do you remember when we would say marriage is a 50-50 proposition?
Well, I heard that rumor, but
it's not. No. It's a 100%, 100%. Any relationship.
Right.
Because 50-50 says, oh, I'm only going that far.
That's right.
The
rest is up to you.
Yeah. So you're both all in. And I think that's a good point. I mean, we have to say, this church, I'm all in. I mean, whatever it takes. So we can connect digitally, but I think also one of the ways to keep from getting disconnected from the church is we can connect individually.
Yep.
So if you couldn't be here on a Sunday, which happens, you've been taking off a lot more lately. Using up some vacation time. Good for you. You don't feel like you have, right?
No.
Yeah. You've missed more Sundays lately than I can remember. But that's okay. When you miss a Sunday, what other times are you connected with the church during the week? Just name some.
Men's Bible study.
So that's Tuesday night.
Okay. Men's breakfast.
Men's Bible study. The
Right.
Thursday morning we have
Yeah.
breakfast there too.
That's right. Worship team.
Worship team.
Got practice.
Yeah. So we practice for that.
And then what's the other one? Java. Jesus.
Java. So you have 4 other times that you're connected. Those are kind of built in for you, aren't they?
They are. They're
Yeah.
on my calendar.
Yeah. So those are built in. So Corwin says, meeting with intention, come with intent to be involved. Wow. That's good, Corwin. That's good stuff. Corwin actually he does our Bible study on Thursday mornings. That's good stuff, because sometimes we might come. Have you ever, you probably haven't, I've seen this happen. People come to church and here's the attitude. All right, I'm coming. We're going to see if anybody talks to me.
Keep waiting.
I did this on purpose because this one is, I'm either cold or I'm closed. Body language. Right. This is what this says. I'm either cold or I'm closed. Now, these days, it means I need to lose a little bit in the middle and I'm just trying to cover up some. It could be. But that is what that says. And if Corwin's right, if we come in and we aren't participating, we aren't engaging that way, then we can give the attitude that I don't want anybody to talk to me. I've seen that before. Now that may not be their intention, but that's the impression. So we have to be intentional. We have to come together to be involved and say, I remember, believe it or not, this is hard for people to believe. At my core, I'm an introvert. And when I went to college, crazy, weird, fun story. I went from having absolutely no way to go to college to being enrolled in a day, accepted and enrolled in a day, and have financial aid to pay for it all one day. Gary Jordan, I'll never forget him. He's the one that kind of walked me through all that. So I was just kind of, my head was spinning. I'm sitting in freshman orientation, going, this isn't real yet. Something's going to happen. In fact, I was supposed to move into my dorm that day. I didn't bring anything with me from 2 hours away because I expected it to fall apart. I went and got the keys to my dorm, went in and looked, and I'm like, I guess this is real. I should go back to Fort Worth 2 hours away and get my stuff. So when I first college, I went in. I mean, I'm sitting in the dorm room. I didn't know anybody. Well, the one person I knew in freshman orientation was a girl I had gone to high school with and broken up because she wasn't a Christian. And I found out that's not a good, you shouldn't tell a girl I can't date you because you're not a Christian. And she thought she was a Christian. Anyways, she later came to know the Lord. I just turned in. I'm just like, oh my goodness, and I made the decision. I said, I'm going to go to the BSU, the Baptist Student Union, and I am going to make friends. I had to make that intentional decision. And so I went, and I didn't wait for them to introduce themselves to me. I introduced myself to them, and I did that, went to a retreat. That's where I met Cynthia for the first time. She thought I was a player. I thought she was a snob. God still worked all that out. But you have to be intentional, and you have to go with the intent of saying, you know what, I'm going to get involved. And not, well, let's see if they're not going to talk to me. You can't do that. If both people are having a bad day, so.
Yeah.
So,
and some people are more extroverted than others, so it comes easier to some people. And to Kim's point, both, it takes both. But if it's a priority for me to reach out to you, I'm going to do it whether you're an introvert or not.
Mhm. Right. But if you are an introvert, then it takes. Kim said it takes even more effort.
Takes some more energy. Right?
Yeah. And so.
All right. So it really has to be a priority. Now it's easier when both parties are trying to stay close.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So connect every way you can, and attend as often as you can. And again, I know we're going to make this better for those of you who attend digitally to engage and connect. We're going to work on that a whole lot. That's going to be one of our big goals in 2023. But there's another way, and we hinted to it. Talking about the other ways that you're connected. If you miss a Sunday, you don't feel totally left out because you've been to Tuesday night men's Bible study, you've been to Thursday morning men's Bible study, Thursday night worship team practice, hanging out here with our, this is almost a small group that we have with Java and Jesus, you know. So the other way, so we attend, that helps us to be together and stay connected. But there's another way that we can do that too. Yeah, join us on Sunday and I'll tell you what it is. The B of the ABCs is to belong. Belong to a small group that meets regularly. Now, you and I overdo it a little.
The B, yeah.
Yeah, you and I overdo it a little, but that's okay. But listen, the more Andy Stanley tells the story. I'll tell it really fast because I know we've gone long. We're going to go in an hour soon. They're dropping like flies. That they were out in a sailboat, or I think it was a sailboat, and there was a hurricane coming. And they go into this harbor, and the captain ties an anchor to this tree, to this tree. He sets a couple of anchors out deep. They had like 5 different tethers that they were tied to, and they did fine. In fact, Louis Giglio was with Andy Stanley, and he said, and we were so comfortable in the middle of that hurricane that Andy Stanley went down below deck and went to sleep, just like Jesus. Slept through the storm. The more tethers we get that way in the church, then the better connected we are, and we don't have to worry about that if we miss a Sunday or 2 or 3, or if we have to take a break for a little while. We still stay connected in the life of the church.
That's right. The more connections you have, the more connected you are.
I know. Ooh, gosh, I might have to change my big idea.
Yeah.
For Sunday, we'll see. Let me pray for you guys. Sorry, we're having too much fun. Y'all are. Some people have to work. I know it's a weird concept. You might be one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's only 7:45. I never changed my coffee clock behind you. Let me pray. Thank you, Lord, for your love. Thank you for the connections that you allow us to have. Help us to do that well. Lord, help us to stay so connected in the life of the church that Satan can't pull us away, that he can't cause division and create wedges between us and the others in the church. And God, help us to connect so well together, to be so unified that the people in the community around see it, they notice, Lord, and you use that in their lives to draw them into a life-changing relationship with Jesus. We ask this in his name. Amen. Thank you guys for jumping in. Fun discussion. Wow. For not knowing what we're going to talk about. We sure talked a lot, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So for you guys, just so you know, the more notes I have on Sunday morning, the shorter the message. If you only see me with like half a page of notes, get worried. Love you guys. See you next week.